Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 51 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Here we go.
Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Have you got a health issue that just won't go away no matter what you try? Then welcome to the Revive Yourself podcast, where we reveal the secrets to long-lasting health by getting to the root cause of problems that no one else is talking about. So you can have more energy, clear skin, healthier hair, a leaner physique, more confidence, and most importantly, do the things you love and live the life you deserve. Here's your host, Ryan Martin.
So guys, welcome to episode 51. Hope you're well, hope you're having a good time and you're healthy and everything's going well as you move through February. I can't wait for the nights to start getting lighter and the spring months. Spring's my favourite time of year. Just sort of had enough of the dark nights at the moment, but it's all good. We get on with it and we go anyway. And as always, thanks for all the messages coming in, guys, and people loving the free 4-day course at www.reviveyourself.co. Brilliant. Anyone's got a chronic condition, that's for you. And that's some really good messages through about the episodes, the podcast. Everyone's loving it. The medical marijuana one. All the episodes before as well. And we got a great one today with the guys from Green Wisdom Health. So Dr. Stephen Lewis. I was going to have Janet on as well, but she actually couldn't make it in the end. So just Dr. Stephen Lewis, and we'll be talking all about the thyroid. Now, thyroid issues are a huge problem for a lot of the population. I think I rolled out some stats in the episode actually about how many people are actually affected by it. A lot more than people think. Some of the stats, I think it was like 1 in 10, but in reality I think it's more, but like 6 or 8 in 10 people all across the US and Europe and the UK. So it's a big episode, guys and girls, and a lot of it, as we're going to anyway. I won't ruin it. I'll let you listen. So, without further ado, here he is, Dr. Stephen Lewis. Hope you enjoy the show, guys, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey, guys, and welcome to episode 51 of the Revive Yourself podcast. Today, I'm with Dr. Stephen Lewis from www.greenwisdomhealth.com, and we're going to be talking all about the thyroid. So, how are you today, Stephen?
Oh, doing great. How are you?
Yeah, really well. So whereabouts are you based? I can hear quite a pronounced southern accent.
Oh, yeah. Longview, Texas.
Yeah. Actually, we've had a couple of guests from Texas. Who was it? I'm trying to think. It might have actually been... I'm trying to think. Maybe Lenny Gale. No, I think it was in Chicago. Two of the guys that worked... Do you know Dr. Doug Kaufman at all?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he does the antifungal diet, and he's actually got two guys. I can't remember the name. I'll get back. I remember who it is, and they produce some really good desserts. They're all gluten, wheat, sugar free. They're really, really good, and they're around your neck of the woods. I know Texas is huge, so quite a big football state, isn't it? Texas, American football.
Yeah, we're in Texas, but we're really closer to Shreveport, Louisiana, than we are Dallas. But it's a good blend of Western, Southern, Cajun. A good blend of cultures.
Yeah, awesome. And so today we're going to be talking about the thyroid. You know, you've got a book out. I don't know if you've got it in hard copy, but I've seen you've got it definitely over the net, called Thyroid Sniper. Which we can talk about later on. But just to begin, because thyroid issues, Stephen, are something that come up quite a lot. And having a look at the stats. People need to know the thyroid. I mean, butterfly-shaped gland found inside your neck, right underneath your larynx or your voice box. It's responsible for reducing the master metabolism, hormones, etc. Essential for growth in children and development children, and really all the hormonal processes. But the stats were actually quite shocking. In the US, once I looked it up, 10 to 40% of the USA have suboptimal thyroid function.
Right.
And in the UK, the Association Clinic. The Association of Clinical Biochemistry and the I can't remember there's another one, the hormone. I can't remember there's another one. The foundation, two or three of the foundations say we have about 2% in a 2% problem. But one of the doctors over here, Dr. Cherry Hertiger, president of the International Hormone Society, he reckons it's about 20 to 50%. So pretty similar to you guys. Now, why is this going on? Why is hormones, the thyroid issue, such a big deal?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, and I think it's more pollutants in our system, the things that are contain fluoride, chloride, and bromine that's interfering with the iodine receptor sites. And then you need some of the other nutrients to convert, T4 to T3, which we have very, very low nutrient density in our food. And it's kind of interesting. We have a lot of trouble shipping out of the United States, but I have this one client in London. I just absolutely love this guy. And he says, well, I have these bad allergies. And I said, well, you need to quit eating this, 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 and this. And he says, stop, doc. He says, we don't eat the same stuff you eat in America because it's outlawed over there. And Jan and I have been to Europe and we've been to China. And it's like, yeah, y'all are a lot healthier than us because I think the food is not so heavily laden with chemicals, and you can tell me if that's true or not.
So we unfortunately we are in bed with you guys, so some bits of it are worse. I mean, we're not allowed certain things in our food, like, for example, we wouldn't see a box of Lucky Charms over here. Full of, I mean, there's certain things that you do. For example, McDonald's over here, it's not good, but the fries over here, I think, have about 6 or 7 ingredients. I think you guys got like 15 to 20.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're buying organic, it's always going to be a lot better. And there's certain guidelines that we don't, that we have that you guys don't. But there's still people are living that Western lifestyle. I mean, there's still a hell of a lot of gluten, wheat, glyphosates over here now. You're getting still soy. People are heavily reliant on caffeine and stimulants. I mean, that's why I've got so many clients, it's probably the same as you, because there's a lot of things. I mean, you said there, T4 and T3, just for our listeners, what are they, Stephen?
Well, T3 is actually the most, in my opinion, the most important thyroid hormone, the one that does the work, and T4 is, for the most part, inactive. But besides iodine, which we're almost all deficient in, you have to have B2 and B3. Mm-hmm. To convert it, and zinc and selenium. The amino acid tyrosine is very important too. But, yes, going organic, you mentioned that, is much, much better choice, and I advise that all the time. But I treat so many organic farmers in so many different states. Mm. And, for example, there's this organic farmer who says, well, I've been doing your stuff for 2 years, and I felt so great that I got first runner-up, best organic farm within 1 year of moving to the new property.
Okay.
And he said, I have the energy to do it because your supplements. And even though I eat organic, I feel terrible when I quit. He said, I quit 3 months ago and I feel absolutely terrible. And I said, well, organic is good, but it's not complete because you don't know if there's 1 part per million or 16,000 parts per million in some of the minerals like manganese and molybdenum. And that's what the research says, that even organic food can vary so widely in the nutrient density, you don't really know what you're getting. But with organic food, you're not getting the chemicals, which is still a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I always say that. I think there's some studies out saying, like, a head of lettuce today, you need to eat 50 heads of lettuce today to get the same nutrition from 1 head of lettuce 50 years ago. So I get what you're saying there. Like,
exactly.
When it comes to topping up with your vitamins and minerals and having certain supplements, that is essential. And we're talking about that because I say, if you're eating whole based foods and they're organic, you say there's big diversity. I mean, if you get biodynamic food, if you can grow your own, great. But you're going to have to probably top up. But you mentioned there, so this is the thing. You mentioned there iodine, which is really, really important. And you said a lot of people are deficient now. I mean, I'm going to go into all this, but why are we deficient? Is it bromine? Is it because we've taken out iodine in lots of the foods that used to be in it? I mean, because it seems like, as you said, it seems that everyone is deficient in iodine these days, and iodine these days, and it's quite a big problem.
Well, I think it's not really in our food as much as we should. We used to, maybe 100 years ago or so, used to fortify flour with iodine.
Mm-hmm.
Now we do it with bromide or bromine, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I love old medical books. I mean, even over 100 years ago, one of the medical books says white wheat flour is devastating to a diabetic and contributes to diabetes. So part of it's missing in our diet, not enough seafood, because thyroid problems are not nearly as rampant around the coast where people tend to eat more seafood. But then you have the fluoride that's in the water, which I think is a problem in our toothpaste.
Yeah.
And then you have chloride and chlorine and all the cleaning products and a lot of the pesticides. So it's twofold. Part of it is not there, and the other part is you've got three other halides that compete for the iodine receptor side. So, it's best, I think, to treat a person individually. There's some experts that write these 200 and 300 page books that say, well, never give a Hashimoto's patient iodine. That's like throwing gasoline on the fire. And then the other so-called expert says you can give them 50, 75, 100 milligrams. And usually you measure iodine in micrograms. But he's given 50 to 100 milligrams and said, no, it's fine. Go ahead and do it. And, my book is like, yeah, cut to the chase. Here's what it is. Here's what it does. Here's why it doesn't work. And you need to find somebody that can treat you as an individual because everybody's different.
Yeah, I always say to people, it's different on the inside as well on the outside. So why would you give someone the same as someone else? So you just mentioned a couple of things there, Right, so we're going to get into Hashimoto's and overactive thyroid and hypothyroid, but why is it, like, for example, we've seen here, there are so many people these days with poor thyroid function, but, the majority of people you see are women between 40 and 50, and women are 10 times more likely to get thyroid issues than men. Why is that?
I don't really know the answer to that, but I think part of the answer, and this is just part, is that men may have it, but we have a tendency to ignore it, and that's why we live much shorter lifespan than the average woman.
Right.
One book, and I've read dozens and dozens of books and hundreds of research articles, real research, not internet opinions. The real research says that up to 80% of all hypothyroid people have Hashimoto's. And I said, I've not really found that to be true. It might be 20 or 30%. But since I've said that, I've noticed, maybe it's more like 50 or 60% is Hashimoto's. So one of the things people have to realize is, you may have a gluten intolerance, but there's somewhere between 4 and 40 times more gluten in our wheat than there was a short 50 years ago. And you ask, why is that? Well, the way we fertilize our food, our crops, is like giving fast food to the food we're going to eat. And when you give it the NPK, it says, oh, I have to grow so fast, I'm going to have to put down more protein. And people say, well, protein's good. No, it's not really, because the protein the plant stores in greater abundance is called gluten.
Yeah, and what so people out there, just because I'm just going to get this, I'm just going to keep on probably making you go a bit deeper into what we just said, because I just want people to really understand. When you say we're giving it fast food, I think it's something like 62 elements to make a plant, but we're only giving it 3. What are those 3, and why is that?
Well, because it makes them look good on the outside. The nitrogen, boost, the leaf growth, potassium's more for the roots, and potash, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like going to the fast food joint and eating something that's just, it's going to give you calories, but it's not going to give you the nutrients. And fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, our body's very adaptable that it can go ahead and function, but not at 100%. I mean, I'm seeing kids that are, 10, 12, 16 years old that come in and say, well, my doctor says I have to have a gallbladder taken out. It's like, okay, our diet is terrible. And that's why Janet and I loved Europe. It's like everywhere we went, we could eat the wheat and it didn't bother us, and we noticed that. And of course, China was a whole different ball game. But I just think we have to go back to the family farmer, the one that doesn't put the NPK on the crops, the one that builds the soil. I'm real big. I've always been big on building the soil. Use composted cow manure from a dairy farm that uses very, very little chemicals. And then I'll throw things in it for, more minerals like lava sand or green sand. And then Janet thinks I'm weird, but she'll order me, many thousands of worms off the internet. And I throw the worms in there and let them do the job to get the bacteria reintroduced into the soil. And it's the bacteria that actually can take these nutrients and put them into a form where the plant can take them up, and then we can consume them. Worms do a really good job. So we have to put the worms and the microbes back in the soil, let them do the work.
Yeah, 100%. People don't. This is the thing. This is one of the things with vegans as well. They don't really understand that their plants are actually. Was it the little animals? The plants are actually eating little animals in terms of the parasites, and people don't really know much about dirt science. There's a really good. Do you know? Have you ever heard of Paul Chek?
I don't think so.
You should look into Paul. He's one of the greatest when it comes to holistic health. Stephen, you have a little look into him. He's the American guy. He's based in California, but he's got his own holistic system. But he's got a good lecture on the internet on YouTube called The Dirt Facts, and it goes into it, breaks it all, very easy for people to understand. And what you said there, it's so important. People don't understand how important the soil is for us, and we think we're humans who are above the laws of nature, but we're slowly but surely realising we're not, and that's why everyone's ill and fat and sick and tired, because the soil, without the soil, and same as the bees, without the bees, we're not going to be here very long. I think it's in America, you guys, I think you've disrupted over 60 to 70% of your topsoil already.
Yes.
So you really need to start working. I mean, it needs to be a movement to get that back, but with all this effects, we said with the women before. I was wondering, because we talked to other guests as well. We call it sometimes successful women syndrome. Where they're trying to live live a man's life in a woman's body, where they're trying to be everything to everyone, and where a man's body can take a little bit more of that stress. It's built that way. Women are there to nurture and reproduce, etc. And their bodies are a lot more delicate than ours when it comes to that sort of thing. So I was wondering if you thought that maybe has something to do with it as well. Why obviously the hormones can get out of balance and it can cause problems, because as much as we want equality in certain areas of life, women are different. It's why tribes made them. They looked after them so well, because they knew that these were the guys that were going to reproduce. They were the ones that were going to nurture the young. And I'm just wondering if the stress that we're putting on some of their bodies these days, it's just too much to handle. That's why we're getting so many thyroid issues.
That may be true. There's certainly differences between the sexes. And, I was given a lecture one night. Lecture's not a good term. I was given a talk one night. And I said, well, women are generally in most areas stronger than men. And that's not always true. I mean, we have more physical strength. But I said, if men were so smart, why do women outlive us 7.8 years? And there was a man that raised his hand. I said, yes, sir. He says, we die earlier from the stress of living with a woman. And I said, you're not a smart man at all, because believe it or not, the more you give to a woman, the more they give back. I mean, they're an incredible creature. And most of my patients are women, which I prefer it because they're almost always just more cooperative, and they can, they're geared to listen to their intuition. So they know baloney when they hear it. I don't know why men are so stubborn. We don't ask for directions. I mean, and that's always a joke. Men won't ask for directions. And, men are like, why we get a remote control and we just flip and flip and flip to the different channel. We don't want to know what's on TV. We want to know what else is on TV, where a woman will find something to watch. Women, they'll find a good program and they'll stick with it more so than a man. So
yeah, 100%.
maybe they're not as strong physically, but they're wiser mentally.
100%. And this wasn't me saying that they're weaker like that. It was actually me saying, it's just weird difference in that there's yin and there's yang. There's the sun, there's the moon. They always say this. There's the water and there's fire. And when it comes to, as you said, you give a woman something, she'll make more out of it. That's why every time we've gone to war and they've taken over the crops, yield has increased 10, 20, 30% because they're much better at that than we are. In fact, until the plough came along, they were doing that. And that's what I'm saying. They're so much more nurturing and loving and much more cultivating. That's why I was just wondering. But their bodies are different to ours because they do have to bear children. So I was just wondering, maybe that's something to do with it. But cause especially in today's world, Stephen, we're in a Western world where, as I always say, people are trying to be successful, always on the go. They think that we're above nature. It's just go, go, go. But I said, there's yin and yang. You need to rest with all that work, and if you try and do that in a woman's body, sometimes it can just break down a little bit quicker. You get more problems, I'd say then. And you said they're probably better at listening to it as well than we are. We're very stubborn. So I completely agree. But what is it? So just going past that, when it comes to thyroid issues, you've got Hashimoto's, and then you've got hyperactive. What are the difference? What are these? What are the differences? And what are the things to look out for?
Well, I don't see very many people with Graves' disease where it's hyperactive. That's actually more rare, at least in my practice. And I just do the natural stuff. Being a chiropractor, it's like I don't deal with the drugs. But I think it may be some people come in and say, well, I just want to run my thyroid lab. I said, well, okay, but, you have the adrenals that are very directly related. You have the pituitary and the hypothalamus and the brain. So you have this axis that sometimes it's really not the thyroid, but it can produce the same symptoms. If it's the adrenals or the pituitary is not putting out, what it does. It's really fairly complicated, but, I try to simplify it. Is take out the toxins, put in the nutrients so your body can take out the toxins. So more nutrients, fewer toxins, boom, you've got a really good chance of getting well. And, part of it is mental and psychological and spiritual. And I think that goes back to the statement about women. I think, well, the reason they may have more of this is because they sacrifice themselves. Mm-hmm. And they're less selfish than some of us. So I think it's probably, I don't know, most of the people I see, maybe 2/3 to 3/4 do have a hypothyroid, but there's almost always an issue with the adrenals. Sometimes it runs too hot before it burns out and goes too low.
Yeah. And if you don't listen, what we just said there, being toxic and deficient, very, very common. Once you get rid of that toxicity and you start to be less deficient, as you said, it's a game changer. But when you're talking about burnout, when you burned out the adrenals, if you don't listen, you finally burn them out. Is there any coming back from that?
Absolutely. But I gave a talk at a grocery store that, has a little classroom. And I said, even in the medical profession, they say that if you have adrenal glands that are exhausted or fatigued, it generally will take 2 to 3 years to rebuild the adrenal glands, and every jaw in the room dropped. And I said, well, we've been taught by listening to the TV on infomercials that, you can do this detox for 3 to 6 weeks and you'll be young, rich, and good looking. Well, it's not that easy and it's not that quick because the environment throws in more toxins every day. And if you're getting out toxins every day, the net loss of toxins is only very small. And that's why it's very, very time consuming to get well. And it's not that you're ever there. It's just a exercise in getting better and better every day. The people that think what I do is a good thing are the ones that stick with it and do the work. And I'm sure that's true for you too. I don't know. I just think we have to look at the entire picture, and the thyroid is probably the first and most important thing to look at.
Yeah. 100%. You know, it is a big picture game. You know, it's sort of like a lot of times the thing's not the thing, and whatever your predisposition to disease is, that's what can go. So
Right.
it's like the modern lifestyle plus the predisposition to disease equals chronic illness. And you said there the lifestyle factors are huge. And yeah, you didn't get ill overnight, did you? So you're not going to be able to get healthy overnight when you've completely burned your adrenals out, or if you're exhausted. If your thyroid's not working. So 2 to 3 years to me doesn't even sound that long. Is in terms of, because most people would have been living. It's like cancer, for example, Stephen. It takes about 10 to 15 years. You work at getting cancer, and when you're burning out your adrenals, it can take some time. And it's a lot of not listening and just keep on pushing through. So I completely understand where you're coming from. So for people out there, you say you deal with more people that have got underactive thyroid.
Yes.
And so, is underactive thyroid Hashimoto's, or is Hashimoto's a little bit different?
It can be underactive without having Hashimoto's.
Right.
Hashimoto's, the lab can go all over the place from a low TSH to a high TSH, and your T3 will vary very widely, and it can be because the person loaded up on gluten and caused that inflammation to be more prominent. Or it can be psychological stress, emotional stress. It can be chemical stress. One lady, it kind of stumped us for a while. And I said, I don't understand what's going on, but it's definitely different. And we finally figured out that they put her back into a condemned building to teach one more year. And the building was just full of all sorts of toxins. And I said, okay, that's it. You probably need to go on a real heavy-duty detox and do that every day. And she did real well after that, once we figured that out. And my father-in-law, he's a very, very young 81. He acts like he's more like 40 or 50. And I can tell when he sprays the mesquite trees south of Fort Worth, Texas, trying to kill them with chemicals because they're a very invasive species. I can tell on his lab within 1 or 2 months after he did it, because his thyroid goes crazy. And that's just from the chemicals that he inhales messes with the thyroid.
Yeah. And yeah, I can imagine. I hate that when they come over. I've got a fields in the back of my house and they spray sometimes, and I'm just like, oh, leave it out, will you? I just don't need it. And as you said before, there's so many people out there that say, I see quite a few articles from people that call some of the natural stuff like pseudoscience and all this, and they say, this is a detox supplement. This will just empty your wallet. This is your liver, this is empty toxins. And it's like, I don't think you understand, mate, for want of a better word, that yes, this is your liver, it will get rid of toxins, but we're not living in the 1940s anymore. We're in 2018 when there's hundreds of thousands of industrial toxins in the air. You're exposed to Wi-Fi basically every day, and Blu-ray, Bluetooth. Your food's completely different to what it was back then. The amount of toxins that are in your food, cans, plastics, whatever it is, there's a hell of a lot more going on. Fragrances, chemicals that are in your shower gels, most people.
Yes.
So it's a lot different today. So if you're giving your body herbs, and certain therapeutic supplements that are going to help to detoxify and chelate metals out, etc., it's going to be a game changer for most people, right?
I think so, and I think the supplementation is the easy way. Of course, Janet and I try to get rid of all the parabens in the shampoo and the chemicals, and we don't give our kids or grandkids all the dyes and the additives. It's like, wow, they even have cancer-causing chemicals in some medications. It's like, well, why do they need a food coloring that's been known to create cancer? So we try to avoid all of that as much as we can, and that's impossible, but we don't over worry about it because we can supplement and say, well, we can take this, and our body physiologically will take care of it itself. So yeah, be aware of that and cut it down as much as you can, but just supplement. You'll take care of a lot of the sins of our society.
Yeah, 100%. And you're adding good things in, and you take away. So I always say to people, it's not just about what you add in; it's about what you subtract as well. If you're taking away and you start using better soaps, I think one of the great ones out there, Dr. Bronner's got some great soaps out there. I know in America it's pretty big. You heard of Dr. Bronner's, Stephen?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, Dr. Bronner's got some good stuff. It's very simple, and otherwise, you say all the phthalates and all the other parabens, etc., they can cause problems. Now, the thyroid, best things for people, if you just say iodine, and there's also other things like ocean plants, I think Body Ecology got a good supplement out there, ocean extract, I'm sure you guys have as well. What are the things you like to use in your products, and what sort of iodine do you think is best? Because Lugo's oil is quite prominent, but what are the ones you use?
We usually use potassium iodide, or some of the iodides are actually chelated to amino acids. I'm a big user of animal glandulars, and I treat an amazing amount of vegans, and I respect the way they choose to eat. That's fine. But all of the vegans except two says, well, okay, I can make an exception with this because of this, or I can take the fish oil or krill oil, even though that's an animal product. I've only had two that won't compromise, and I said that's fine. I'm very respectful of that, but you're going to get well at a much slower rate. And some of the vegans come back and say, oh my God, you put me on this animal product, and oh my God, I haven't felt this good in 20 years. And they just go on and on and on. And then they send in all their friends, which are vegans. And that's why I have a pretty good track record helping people. And then I have a lot of people on the other end of the spectrum that, have gone paleo, primal, keto, the heavy meat eaters. I don't think there's any one particular diet, but I'm very careful to tell people, it's not what you put in your body. It's what you absorb. And most of us think, well, we put it in, it's good. No, you need massive amounts of digestive enzymes and massive amounts of probiotics. You have to heal that GI tract from the damage that this genetically modified organisms, all the things that we eat, most of them are genetically modified. I got in a big debate with this one big guy about, he says there's not genetically modified wheat, and I stated my case for why I think there is, although they're not admitting to it much. They do admit there is some, but that's why wheat, one of the reasons wheat has 4 to 40 times more gluten in it. So you have to use the probiotics and digestive enzymes almost every day just to make sure that you absorb a higher percentage of what you put in your body.
I mean, the microbiome is just essential, People, 10, 15 years ago, the medical industry would just laugh at it. And then now they're the ones, when I say to people, when I give my seminars, they're coming up and saying, oh my God, we're starting to learn this now. It's so important. And, you guys have got more GMO over there than we have, but, we still get your products on our shelves. So things like the sweet potatoes, I think you've even got pineapple GMO now. There's lots of different things you've got to look out for. I always say to my clients and my parents, you've got to look out for where these things come from, even if they're organic. Right. Unless they're organic, which you'll be fine. But I completely agree with you. It's so you can sit there and have arguments with people, but sometimes, as you said, well, how are you feeling? You got vegan. I've dealt with the same thing, Stephen, with vegans. People that have gone vegan and it's been tremendously good for them for like 6 months to a year, and then they start getting problems. Right. But I even had Leah Keith on here, who was vegan for 20 years, and she's done irreparable damage to her body. And if you're doing it for animal welfare, I completely understand. But at the end of the day, who's going to change the world more, you or a cow? And so I look at it like I don't want to lose my health over that. And when I eat meat, I feel better. I don't eat loads of meat, right. But as you said before, it's not about just what you put in. It's a balance, and it's also about what you can absorb and what you can assimilate. And most right. people aren't digesting, metabolizing, assimilating, and eliminating their foods properly. I'm guessing this also comes down to playing a big issue with the thyroid, right? Because if you're not doing that, you're not going to be getting the nutrients that you need to nourish your body.
Absolutely. And the thyroid has such a huge influence on our GI tract, and GI tract is 70-80% of our immune system, and that's why we're having more autoimmune diseases, Hashimoto's and others. So thyroid, first and foremost to look at. But I tell people, let's look at I told a guy from down in Houston, and he was from a family of fishermen. I said, when I do lab work, I throw a big net. He says, okay, I've got that analogy. He really understood that. I said, we don't want to look specific, because I think one of the biggest problems in American healthcare is we've been a reductionist nation. Let's reduce you to a kidney problem. Let's reduce you to a thyroid problem. And we're ignoring all the other things. There's a cascade of things that happen all over the body when one organ fails. And so let's look at, on lab, we do a tremendous amount of lab. I do it extremely inexpensively so that, most people can afford to do that. And I've had people that come in here. Of course, we do it, I talk to people all over the nation, but they come in here and I'll be explaining it and they'll start crying. And I'll say, I'm sorry, did I say something wrong? They said, no, you're the first person in 10 years that's listened to me and figured out what the problem is. And, we all have our successes and failures, of course, but Hashimoto's is getting more and more rampant. So I think it would behoove the patients, if they're not getting results, to get a second or a third opinion. Failure leaves clues, but so does success. And so, follow where success leads you. Just pay attention. Your body will lead you if you will pay attention to it.
Yeah. And what sort of, for example, I always say to people, right, so unless it's someone who's been struggling for a long time, go and get labs. Otherwise, I'm always like, I've been in places where people just chucking people out for tests, and I'm like, the guy's eating cheese strings and quavers and drinking litres of Coke, and you're sending him out for tests. Of course he's going to be toxic and deficient and everything. How about we clean his diet up right for a month, then come back and see what he's deficient in then, because you're going to get better results. Otherwise, if people are doing anything right and they're still struggling, then I think it's a good time to take a test. Do you understand where I'm coming from with that, Stephen?
Yeah, I do see some people that test to death. I've had patients that retest, and they've never even bought the supplements and taken them. Yeah. And so, what's the point of looking at it if you don't do it? And I tell people, faith without works is dead, and works being the action step. And that's what made America great. Is we took an idea, but we put the action step to it. I hope we get back to that someday. But talking about it's great, but it's the doing that really gets you results.
Yeah, they say, I think it's a quote, to know and not do means you don't really know. Because, so what sort of test do you get when you say because I always look at it, if I get people to test, I always like to do it sometimes, have a few different times, because otherwise sometimes it can be like a snapshot